Just wanted to give you a brief rundown on how you can do an analysis on the SR latch. This is a set reset condition, which is known as a race condition, where both inputs to the NAND gates are asserted high. That's never supposed to happen. Once you have a race condition like this, things can go south pretty quickly with your SR latch. In order to stop that sort of thing from happening, and also to make things rather more synchronous, people introduce a clock, and they also use master-slave relationships. So let's take a look at some other mechanisms for screening the input. Here we'll use a clock, and that will essentially screen out the transitions from low and high, so that when they go and get asserted, we can see that they only get transmitted out when the clock is asserted. There's a couple of ways in which you can make things even more reliable. When you go to sequential circuits, there's a thing called the master-slave flip-flop. So instead of using two NAND gates to screen out the clock, what we'll use is one flip-flop to screen out the inputs and make them synchronous. So here we'll have a delay input coming in, and then we have a clock which can strobe the delay input, and we can see the output here. It's really an SR latch that's got a clock that's out of phase with the clock going into another SR latch. So we have two SR latches and screened clocks coming in. This one comes in on the high signal, this one comes in on the low signal, and that's called the master-slave relationship, with a single clock input and a single control input. This is the here we can see the input changing, and now we can see it change again. So you can see how that propagates, but it takes a clock pulse going up and then down before it propagates through. Let's try another one. We'll go and do a sequential logic flip-flop called the edge triggered D flip-flop. So here's the edge coming in. We only want to trigger on the edge because that ostensibly makes the flip-flop a little bit more reliable. And so now we'll change its state, and we can see that we're able to control the state, but it takes clock transitions to do it. And here we can see the state change occurs at the bottom when the clock transitions up. So that's kind of an interesting way to make things a little bit more reliable in edge-triggered D flip-flop. So again, we're seeing an SR flip-flop. Here's another SR flip-flop, but this one's being used to screen the clock as well as the output of a second SR flip-flop. Let's go and take a look at another one. This is called a JK flip-flop. And now the JK flip-flop, again, we see the theme, right? There's the SR flip-flop. Here's the screening AND gates, which are out of phase with the other screening AND gates, and another flip-flop. And the difference between this and the level-triggered D flip-flop is that we're using 3-input NAND gates here on the input, and the third input is for the J and the K. And that should make things rather more reliable. With both highs coming in for the J and K, we should see the toggle action occurring. And that's kind of interesting that that's a permitted thing to do with this sort of flip-flop. You can have both J and K asserted at the same time and get reasonable behavior. And so this becomes a toggle flip-flop. And it's rather more reliable flip-flop than if we didn't have this clock strobing things through. So we like to be able to have the various stages. But there's a cost involved, right? There's extra gate delay for each stage. So gate delay here, gate delay there, another gate delay. So by the time we're done, there's 4 gate delays involved in the clock. And of course, the real delay is going to be how fast we can do the switching, and that'll be a function of the clock itself. So we won't be able to guarantee the output to be valid unless we hold the input for an entire clock cycle. And what that means to us, the designers, is we have to make sure that the clocks are going to go no faster than 3 or 4 gate delays. Once we get down to 4 gate delays, we're right at the margin of what is considered to be permissible switching speed for our logic. So this is a sort of a basic overview of some of the things that you might like to look at. You might want to run the simulator itself. Here's a square wave generator for a F555 timer. You can find this at the end of Chapter 6. And what that does is it charges and discharges a capacitor. Once the capacitor is charged to a threshold, things turn on, and then the capacitor will discharge. Once it discharges to a threshold, things can turn off. This charge-discharge cycle is maintained at a specific frequency and is adjusted by the resistor and capacitor according to a formula that's supplied with the 555 timer. And there's some diagrams in the book that show you some relationships that you can follow, general relationships for controlling these timers. But they come in so many different families with so many different parameters that it's really hard to generalize. So I would encourage you to go to this website and try and play around with some of the circuits. It's great fun. And thanks a bunch for your time. Bye.